Good morning, YouTube. This is the Fantasy Forecasters bringing you our running back 2018 running back predictions. We're going to start this video off like we start off every video, it seems like, with an apology. So we would like to apologize to the one subscriber we lost who probably is not watching. And we would also like to apologize to Samaje P. Ryan for mispronouncing your name, even though I did not do it.
Mispronunciating.
Tay.
Keep going, we're still on camera.
I have to apologize to the English teachers now.
Next video.
We'll make him apologize this time.
Alright, so we're going to jump right into things. We're going to talk about 3 potential sleepers, people that are being drafted too low, someone you can find as a bargain hunter, as if you're doing an auction style draft. I'm going to kick off the video. My name is Sean, this is Danny, this is Bryn, and here we go. My first sleeper is Alex Collins for the Ravens. I think the guy has a lot of potential. He definitely showed up on certain games last year. Danny Woodhead's gone. Not that he really made that much of a difference last year because he was always hurt. He's definitely the goal line guy. He's going to get the early down work. And to be honest with you, as far as being a pass catching out of the backfield, he definitely has some promise and potential there too. So for me, Alex Collins is someone I'm looking to get late in the draft, or for someone that's, as far as an auction draft goes, someone I can get cheap and late. Okay, my second guy I really like is Isaiah Crowell. Isaiah Crowell is 2 years removed from a really good season. Last year he was a little bit of disappointment. He was overhyped. But let's be honest, the whole Browns as a whole last year struggled. So I think he's
Almost beat the Steelers though.
They did. He's in a better system now. They have better weapons that the Jets have. Plus, I think their offensive line is a whole lot better than what they have in Cleveland. So for me, Isaiah Crowell is definitely someone that's on my radar as far as buying low that could potentially return big gains. Okay. The other guy I have is Joe Mixon. Now I've been high on the Bengals pretty much this whole run long. I'm high on Dalton. I love A.J. Green. The reason why I like Joe Mixon is this: he's fully healthy. Last year, the offensive line lost 2 of their best offensive linemen. Now, granted, they did lose some people in free agency, but they also brought in a couple of guys that upgraded their offensive line. As far as PPR, I really like him because he does catch balls out of the backfield. So for me, Joe Mixon again, and I think a lot of people are overlooking Joe Mixon because of the rough year he had last year, because of the injuries. I think he's definitely someone you could get in the later rounds, and as far as an auction draft goes, he's someone you can get relatively cheap.
And for the record, he did come on late. It's a pretty good back. The only argument I'm making, I didn't want to cut you off, man, but is Alex Collins. The only thing I would say about him is I don't know if Joe Flacco's in there, if he's really worth it as much. I just don't think that. When was the last time that running game was good under Joe Flacco? It's been a while. But if Lamar Jackson takes over the starting reign anytime, I love Alex Collins.
But the other thing too you have to remember is Alex Collins had some really good games last year with Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
So,
if anyone I was going to say, I still don't say draft Isaiah Crowe because I don't know, I just don't like any Jets running backs. I never really liked any Jets running backs. It's just not I know that they've gotten better on the line, but I just...
My biggest problem with the Jets running back, and I see where you're going with that, is look at Bilal Powell. Every year he has that early game that hits oh my gosh, this guy's finally going to break out, and then they stop using him.
To be fair, that's not how it is this year. No one's saying that the Jets running backs...
Yeah.
But I don't know. The reason why I wasn't going to say anything anyways until you decided to jump in, and I was like, well, if I had an issue with any of them, it'd be Crowell. I said his name wrong earlier, by the way.
Isaiah Crowell.
You said Crowell. I just said...
Keep going.
We'll cut that part out. Now I forget where I was going.
Anyway, so we'll jump into the next spot. So I'm going to go with mine next.
Okay.
So my first one for undervalued is Kenyon Drake. Now, for some reason, when you're hearing the Dolphins running back, I'm hearing Frank Gore's name way more, and I'm not sure why. Frank Gore was, for the most part, terrible last year for the Indianapolis Colts. So I'm not sure why everyone's thinking he's going to come in and take over Kenyon Drake, who had a monster second half of the year. I mean, everyone thought that team was done when JJE left, and all of a sudden Kenyon Drake comes out and yes, JJE didn't play fully for the Eagles till the end of the year, but he actually, I don't care anymore. He actually outperformed. We've already butchered so many names, I don't even care anymore. Kenyon Drake, I still think is the best running back to get there. I think he can be a star. I think you should take him in the first couple rounds. I honestly, not round 1 through 5, but maybe 6 mid-round, somewhere around that. My second one's Derrick Henry, and all I'm hearing from the Titans is Dion Lewis this, Dion Lewis that. Well, Dion Lewis hasn't played a full season in his whole career at this point. Derrick Henry showed flashes last year, but kept getting pulled for DeMarco Murray after his good games. I still think he's probably the best running back there. Nothing fully against Dion Lewis, like we were talking earlier, kind of a PPR type thing. If you're in PPR, maybe he might be better coming out of the backfield. But for the most part, Derrick Henry probably would be my biggest choice there for undervalued. I think you could probably get him a pretty good value in the mid rounds. So he kind of took my Joe Mixon one. So I was kind of looking and saying, who else on here do I see maybe that is not going to get called out anywhere else? And I was going to go with Chris Thompson if he stays healthy. Now, looking at the Redskins running back, and yes, I like talking about, we love talking about Redskins running backs here, and none of us are Redskins fans. I don't know, every week it comes to this. But Chris Thompson, once again, it all comes down to PPR. If you're not in a PPR league, I would avoid him like the plague. I wouldn't have him on no teams. If you're in PPR league, Chris Thompson's almost a must draft if he's healthy. So I would put him as a third one just because he's going to get those catches. He's going to be out there in the field. I agree with Sean and Joe Mixon on that. He would have been my third one. I think Joe Mixon, what he showed late in the season last year, I do agree that he's probably for that. That was my original choice.
Now, my biggest issue is Derrick Henry. I am not a Derrick Henry fan, and the reason why is this. When he had flashes last year, it was mainly because most defenses planned for DeMarco Murray. Now, granted, DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry have very similar, they're both downhill power running games. I get that. But I think now defenses have a better look at Henry. Look what the Patriots did to him in the playoffs. He did nothing. He didn't
that whole Titans offense should have never even been there in the playoffs.
But still, he didn't do anything. Like, that is your workhorse back. You have to rely on him. The game runs through Derrick Henry. And
yeah, but like you even said on that, he's very similar to DeMarco Murray. And for a lot of his breakout games, I would say probably over half of them, was in a game that DeMarco Murray wasn't even playing anyway. So you can't really say that. They're preparing for DeMarco Murray. And he had that one game early in the year where, yes, DeMarco Murray was in early in the game, got injured, and Derrick Henry had his best game, and then didn't play for another, 3 or 4 weeks at that point. And then Derrick Henry got in again because Murray got injured again because DeMarco Murray was the injury horse.
But the also thing we have to realize is Derrick Henry's been fresh. When you take a week off, you take 2 weeks off, you have fresh legs. How's he going to respond to being that 200 carry guy?
I don't see how he's going to have any issue. He did great in college with it, and anytime they called him last year besides the playoff game,
but
he responded. Yeah, but you need anyone in the Titans
too.
Yeah, but he got injured. His was pure injury.
Trent Richardson looked great.
Trent Richardson had a good season in the NFL too for the Cleveland Browns.
I'm not going to jump in with an issue here. I mean, I'm not huge on Kenyon Drake, but I'm not going to jump in and say don't draft him because starting running backs are hard to come by.
Yeah, in the end, yes.
I don't think Frank Gore is going to replace him, but I think he'll be a nice change of pace for.
I mean, the biggest thing with the Dolphins running back is you've been hearing a lot of talk about Ballage. He's a rookie running back they got late in the draft. I don't see it. I think Kenyon Drake is going to be the guy in Miami. If he stays healthy, he's probably going to be the number one guy. I think Frank Gore's probably going to take most of your goal line stuff. If anything, he's going to be that vulture that just annoys you in fantasy. If anything. But for me, I like Kenyon Drake.
And I would just like to point out, Frank Gore said about Kenyon Drake, he can see why they traded JJE when he saw him run. I already said it wrong once, so why not say it wrong numerous times? Bring, on to you.
All right, so I guess I'll run down through my three. My first one is Chris Carson. Sorry, I had to. Chris Carson out of the Seattle Seahawks. I already said in one of our previous videos that I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be a starter, and he's still right now the clear-cut guy there. I don't think CJ Procise is going to do much, and I'm still not liking how Rashad Penny's looking to take over for Chris Carson this early in the season. He did start off real well with Seahawks last year. Had some great games, was the best running back by far in Seattle. And then the injury hit. Granted, yes, there was an injury last year, and that is something to be concerned about. But he's actually looked like the best running back of all Seahawks this year. And I really think that he's a guy that's also going much later than a starting running back should. Next, I'm actually not going to go with the starting running back. I'm actually going to say Matt Breida. I'm not sold on Jerick McKinnon. I just don't think him as a starter is going to work. I mean, he didn't look great as a Vikings starter. I mean,
His games.
but he was also more of a change of pace guy. Like it was him and Latavius Murray. I don't see McKinnon as like the workhorse of the team. And Breida actually did have some pretty good games last year whenever they actually put him front and center. So I actually
this preseason.
yeah, and then Breida's looked good this yeah. So I mean, I think Matt Breida's a guy that he's not. I don't think he's even drafted. No. I think he's a guy that's basically just out there in free agency after most drafts, which is another thing that you don't even have to draft him. You can pick him up after week 1. Like he'll probably still be there because that's the best thing about fantasy football, the waiver wire.
Mm-hmm.
And my last one, which I'm already ready to defend because we already had a little bit of an issue earlier, is Terry Cohen. The best thing about Cohen is that he's a guy that's going to be getting a lot of catches out the backfield, and he's also just a good change of pace for Howard. And I really don't, I hate saying this, I don't trust Howard as much as I want to this year. And I think Cohen possible. I mean, they did a good 1-2 punch last year, but I think Cohen's going to actually be the one who gets you more, especially with a PPR type league, because he's going to be a guy that's catching out the backfield. And I just so that way I don't sound like a crazy person by just talking about this. Go ahead.
Okay, so where do I start? So for Chris Carson, I don't mind him, but my one argument there is I think CJ Procise was actually better than him last year.
I disagree with that.
Procise had some monsters.
He was injured most of the season. When he came back,
Yeah, but when he played, he was good.
Chris Carson had much better games than
Chris Carson only played like 3 weeks.
but he still had much better. I bet
Procise played more.
I bet you he had better numbers than Procise did last year.
No, we talked about average or overall because I'm pretty sure no matter what way you look at it,
overall,
Procise is gonna have
obviously, it's
overall.
going to be Procise.
I win. So next, then the Matt Breida I don't mind, and Terry Cohen. So the only reason I'm at it, and I agree with the PPR side of things. If you're PPR, he might be a little bit worth it. I still don't think draft him. I still think like Breida, he doesn't get drafted, and I think he falls out of it.
What?
But my problem with Cohen is last year he had that one huge game week 1. The reason I know that is because I picked him up in our fantasy football league thinking, I need a running back, let me get Cohen. I had him on my team the whole season until about week 13, and he did not put up one more game that had him worth playing. He did have one where he should have had a touchdown that was called back, and then Jordan Howard got the touchdown.
I'm going to break this thing down in 2 parts. 2 parts. I'll break it down to 2. One, last year, their 2 quarterbacks were Mike Glenn and Mitch Trubisky.
Well, your quarterback, it doesn't change much this year.
Trubisky was a rookie last year, and they also didn't give him enough of a chance to actually give the ball out downfield, which is why Cohen struggled, because most of the time Trubisky only had like 100 yards passing.
But when the running backs get the passes, aren't they the ones who usually get it within the first 5 yards? How does that mean everything? If Trubisky can't complete a pass within 5 yards, then
if you looked at Cohen's bread and butter last year,
I
it
like
was
bread and butter.
short. I do too.
You like this, yeah? Anyway,
Order it. But the best thing about Cohen's out the backfield catches last year is that he went for distance. Like, he had a lot of yards for receiving. He probably almost had just as much receiving as running last
that's cool.
year.
But how many games did he have receiving yards, and how many games did he have 0 to 5 points in fantasy?
It doesn't. Again, I gotta get to my second point. Because again, we have a much better Mitch Trubisky this year, so it's gonna again we're going with a team that was basically a run heavy, but they were giving to Howard. The other thing that I'm going to mention is that we don't have the John Fox play call this year. We have a
Fox
guy.
is pretty bad.
We have a guy who basically is run first and like run it down the throats. Matt Nagy is a guy that's definitely going to like take time and not just give the ball to Mitch Trubisky to try and win the game.
Yeah, he's going to Jordan Howard.
No, he's going to have a change of pace because I think the one thing that they were missing in Kansas City last year is the two running back set because Spencer Ware got hurt. So they really didn't have that type of thing, and they had to give the ball to Kareem Hunt.
Well, they had West. I can't. I'm not going to even. You tried it.
Sharkhandrick West.
Yeah.
But I just think that it's a different team. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to be the Super Bowl type team like some people are saying. I've heard people say they're this year's Eagles.
Wait, what? Wait, who's saying that? I thought you were talking about the Jaguars and the Vikings are taking a shot at us.
No. I've heard people say that they could be this year's Eagles, and I don't agree with that.
I have not heard
But
that
I
one.
think this is a team that's at least going to probably get third place in that division.
I'm just going to keep the argument going that Jordan Howard is definitely worth having on your team. Tara Cohen, I saw it firsthand last year that yes, every couple of weeks.
Team.
It is. I'm not going to argue that's a different team.
I really feel like Tariq Cohen's he's gonna have his games, but he's also gonna have the games where he puts up a goose egg. I mean, I think that's just how.
So he's boom or bust.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
That's what I feel like.
Yeah, but what running back really, like other than the top ones,
Right.
which one isn't? I mean,
Exactly.
we could make that same point about the ones that we just said earlier.
Exactly.
Well, the only difference is, though, between that and this is you in Chicago, there is a clear number one in Jordan Howard to where a lot of the ones that we said, and I understand you're back, and I like what you did, but Jordan Howard is your number one running back there in Chicago. There is no doubt there, and it was shown last year when the one game that I finally had a good Tara Cohen number, Jordan Howard stole the touchdown. So Jordan Howard is the number one there. That's my biggest argument for that. I personally don't think Cohen's worth a spot early on. If Jordan Howard gets injured,
I disagree completely. You're gonna say that you'd rather take.
we can agree to disagree at this point.
I know. Well, yeah, you're just shutting it down because you don't want me to have more.
Well, we're gonna if we keep going, I think we could go for the whole 3 hours at this point.
Keep this going for a while.
We can keep this going for a while.
Well,
We're both very passionate about it.
All right, so Grim, why don't you start off with your buyer beware?
But so Tara Cohen,
Dalvin Cook.
hey, that's actually a good. I wouldn't
Actually,
argue that in all honesty. But go ahead.
Actually, the three I have. First, I have Jay Ajayi, not Ajayi. Jay Ajayi, who came into the Philadelphia Eagles late last year. I don't know. I mean, he had some big games last year for the Eagles, but at the same time, he was a guy that I don't know. I just keep going back to the Dolphins, Ajayi, and that's not an Ajayi that you want. Like it's at all. And the Eagles,
So many options.
yeah, they just had. I mean, Sproles is back and healthy.
Corey Clement.
Corey Clement.
I just don't trust Ajayi, and I think he's getting drafted pretty high in most leagues as well. Another one that I don't, and it's one that I always hate because he's one. I mean, he had a good year last year. Is Lamar Miller.
On and off.
Yeah, but he got some points at least this year. But he's
Yeah.
and ironically, it's another former Dolphin. I think I have a track.
Wow. Let's see who your last one is then. No.
My last one's Devonta. I mean,
Anyway,
forget it.
no, I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
I just for what Lamar Miller's just that guy that just is. I don't know. There's nothing special about him. I mean, he does. Hey, sometimes he gets you that 100-yard game, but then most times it's just he's there.
Man.
Like
Right.
he's just there.
He's average.
Like and what like that's a guy who's getting drafted high, and it's just I can't pull myself to get Miller.
Like you said earlier, though, running backs are hard to come by. So understand.
He's
But
a starting running back in a good offense, especially with a healthy Deshaun Watson. I could see the appeal, but I
And then my last one, which I've been hearing him like more than I've heard. Ironically, it's two people I think you brought up earlier. Yeah, and I've been hearing his name brought up a lot more than Derrick Henry as well. Is Dion Lewis, and I think you basically I don't even really have to say much because you were hitting it pretty well by saying that he's not had a full start in years as a running back. He's a guy that had a few good games with the Patriots, but. So did a guy that
He's still on the team.
Quinn Gray was his name.
Don't say it. Let's
I don't remember. Let's not forget Brandon Bolden.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots have so many guys that had huge games at one point and then have done nothing
I think
since.
Quinn Gray was a quarterback for the Jaguars at one point, by the way.
Yes, yes, they were.
Well, that's the thing. I just don't remember the guy's name. I actually brought.
I get what you're saying. I agree 100%. The one guy who had the one huge game and then you never
And then
heard
he
from
got-
him
and
again.
then he got
ever
benched
again.
after that.
Well, that's already been 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh.
Dang. Yeah, I have no arguments there. No. So I'll go next with this for my buyer beware. The first one is Kareem Hunt. Did I say it right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just want to make sure. So Kareem Hunt last year had that breakout first half of the season, mainly that game against the Patriots to open the season last year. But if you look at his numbers as the season went, I mean, they were probably among the bottom half of the league. If that, probably some backups, probably Tarek Cohen was ahead of him at some weeks. Hunt, I think, can be a good running back, but once again, this goes back to pretty much every video that we've done and argued on at this point, is that the Chiefs, can you trust Mahomes? Can you trust that offense? Can you trust that offensive line? Are the Chiefs a team to fall? And I'm not so sure. Once again, I don't remember. It may have been brought up in video, may not. But Spencer Ware is also healthy now, so he's going to take. We didn't bring that. He's going to take some of the passing down backs. So I think Kareem Hunt's not going to be necessarily as solid as he was last year. So be very weary of him. My second one is nothing to do with his on the field. LaShawn McCoy. He did just get sued. I think last week it started to go to court and everything about some issues at the home, we'll just say, and stuff. So just beware if you're drafting him first, second, third overall. There could technically be a suspension later this season for him. So it's not necessarily saying, hey, this guy's not a good running back.
Because it worked for Elliott last year.
Well, I mean, you got the whole year.
I mean,
You had him almost the whole year, though, Elliott. So yeah, but keep an eye on Chris Ivory if you start seeing that happening. Chris Ivory is currently the backup there. Once again, if you're desperate enough to have Buffalo players on your team. And my third one is Detroit Lions starter LeGarrette Blount. They don't really have that many options down there. You have my boy Amir Abdullah. My boy, he's so sure that I'm going to draft him every single year.
You're gonna do it.
And I'm going to some way draft him this year again.
He called third, right?
Huh?
He's third.
He's
now,
third.
isn't he?
He's third.
Behind Theo Riddick.
Yeah. Well, Theo Riddick's technically the
He actually
receiving
might
back.
be fourth because Caron
Yeah,
Williams.
yeah, correct. I think he fell to fourth. I don't think technically.
So this is Amir Abdullah's year.
Last round, I'm drafting him. No, but LeGarrette Blount is another one of those people.
Just real quick, I'm calling it now. He's going to be a Buffalo Bill and be the top runner.
LeGarrette Blount is one of those guys who every year, like, he has that good game of the Patriots, and then he has 2 yards per carry. Did he end up with more than 2 yards per carry last year in Philly? It was pretty close. He was pretty low towards the end of the year. He's never really had good. He'll get you the touchdowns at the goal line, but the Lions are a team that's known for throwing it at the goal line with Matt Stafford and Stafford running it in. So I don't think he's going to go high anyway, but be very weary of drafting LeGarrette Blount at any point on your team.
Right.
Wow, is this 6 in a row that there's no issues with?
No, no
I don't-
issues.
I agree with those
Yeah.
3.
All right, so I'll just take off mine here. The first one I want to talk about is Aaron Jones. I know a lot of people have been talking about Aaron Jones. He had a really good showing at the end of the year last year. But here's the thing. He's third on the depth chart. You have Williams there. You have Montgomery there. I just don't feel that there's a real game plan for him unless one of those two get hurt. So as long as Williams and Montgomery both stay healthy, I really don't feel like Aaron Jones is even pointful to keep on a roster. He is someone, if there is an injury, he is definitely someone to keep watch of. But to me, I wouldn't draft him. I wouldn't spend any money on him in an auction. To me, he's just someone that, unless someone gets injured, there's no point to even have him on your roster. The second guy who I kind of brushed on earlier is Kalen Ballage. A lot of people in Miami training camp have been very high on this guy. A lot of people have talked about him. They talked about he's 6'2", 250. He's a big power guy, which kind of complements what Kenyon Drake can do. But at the same time, you do have old man Gore there, who basically is going to do the same thing.
Is he ageless?
Yes, the ageless.
It's the first time that's been brought up today.
So for me, Kalen Ballage, don't buy into the hype. Don't listen to it. And until he actually proves and shows that he is what he's hyped up to be, I would not touch it.
Hold up. Battery dead's popping. What Danny told us about.
What's that?
Let's try to finish yours. I'll tell her to cut this part out, but just want to give you the heads up that it might shut off.
Right. All right, and the last guy, this is going to create a little controversy, so I'm sure this will finally get some talking about. My third buyer beware is Saquon Barkley, and here's why. The Giants have the most pass attempts in the NFL. Now, granted, some of that was because they never had a
They
running
didn't have
game.
a running back.
But at the same time, their offensive line is the worst rushing offensive line in the league. So we expect Saquon Barkley to just take over the NFL, run for 18,000 yards, and be the greatest Barry Sanders ever. I would say beware. Simply because that offensive line is not good. You're still going to have a lot of mouths to feed with Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram. There's plenty of options there in the passing game. Their defense is not that great, so they're probably going to be playing from behind a lot. So for me, I mean, I could very well be eating these words, and Saquon could have a huge year. But to me, I would just temper expectations. I think that, in all honesty, he's going to be in the middle tier. I would say, honestly, in my opinion, he's going to be 12 to 15th as far as fantasy running backs goes.
He's not a fan of Penn State. You know,
I just want to say he is going to be the better Barry Sanders.
I don't think Barry Sanders is ever going to lose that best Barry Sanders in the league thing. I will argue
The
that.
funny thing is I actually don't disagree. I just think that my only concern with Barkley is that he's going too high.
And that's the reason.
And I think that he's getting drafted, like, he's definitely been first round in every type of aspect, like they're putting
And
him
he's
first
never
round.
had an official NFL carry outside of
And it
preseason.
is a Giants team, but I want to hear what you have to say.
You say that about all the. You can say that about pretty
you
much
seem
every
like you're
starter.
about to turn this.
Well, no, I'm not, because he's at mid-tier and rated the draft. I agree with him being a mid-tier guy. In fact, I have him ranked at 15, which is almost exactly mid-tier for starters. With that being said, I still think Saquon Barkley is going to be the only rookie that's really worth drafting early on this season. He's clear start at the beginning. Who else is there to start with him? And with you naming that offense of, they have Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram, every team has 2 receivers and a tight end. That doesn't change anything. So my argument is, yes, I agree with you that he's a mid-tier guy right away. I think he ends up a top 10 guy before the year's out.
So does every wide...
Yeah, that's a weird defense of that.
Is every wide receiver a drama queen like Odell Beckham? All right, so now we're going to move on to our key questions heading into the running back situations. The first one we're going to talk about is handcuffs. Which handcuffs do you guys feel is the most important to roster moving forward with this NFL season?
You want me to start?
Yep.
Well, actually, once again, as someone just brought up a little bit earlier,
I keep bringing up all your things.
I know, it's a good thing. I actually think a good handcuff this year is going to be Spencer Ware. He's a guy that got hurt last year, didn't really get to play at all, and I truly believe that the Chiefs would have done a 1-2 combo with him and Hunt if he were there. Again, we already mentioned West was not a guy that, I mean,
Didn't he get injured after 1 carry last year or something?
I don't know.
He was
But
out.
Spencer Ware is a guy that I really, that's why I didn't argue your Kareem Hunt earlier, because I think Ware is going to start also taking some of Hunt's carries, because I think they overkilled Hunt last year. I think they gave him too many carries, and I think that kind of wore him down at the end of the year. And I think that Andy Reid's going to try and fix that. And I think Spencer Ware is going to be more of an option for the Chiefs moving forward, especially with a team that still is kind of questionable with the quarterback.
That's fair enough. And I'm going to go with my handcuff being Jeremy Hill. Patriots, you never know who's going to start there. You never know which running back's going to go. Jeremy Hill's currently number 2 on the depth chart. In all honesty, in preseason, he's outplayed everyone on that team. What is it, Rex Burkhead? He's outplayed Burkhead at pretty much every set of this preseason. That's not meaning it's preseason, but I think Jeremy Hill's definitely a good one to have on the roster because I think, as we've stated before, you never know who the Patriots are going to use within week in and week out. So you don't want to rely on Rex Burkhead as your only option there when Jeremy Hill seems to be the one that's doing better.
And they also have James White.
Right.
Yeah, he's the receiving back. I'm talking about more of a power back type of thing.
But
James White, I would have on the team.
Yeah, James White's still a guy to look at as well because James White is, like you said, he's getting the passes out the backfield.
And once again, when we say all these passes out of the backfield, we all are saying, without saying it, we're more talking PPR. If you're not doing a PPR league, disregard us on James White, disregard us on Deion Lewis, disregard us on those ones because they're not going to do much for you in any other league type of league. Deion Lewis, PPR.
I think there's one
My
so-
handcuff I'm going to go with is
Yeah, we
Austin
said that
Eckler. Melvin Gordon, ultimately, early in his year, he's had some injury concerns. Melvin Gordon. Well,
No, I think he's remember Marvin Ingram.
oh, anyway, early in his career, he did have some injury concerns. The last few years, he's actually looked really good. He stayed healthy. But you never know when that injury bugged and rears ugly head. And in a limited action, Austin Eckler has looked really good. I feel like he's someone that you could possibly even maybe take a late flyer on just to roster him on your, even if you don't have Gordon, just maybe keep him as like someone like a stash player just in case. In the action that he's seen, he's looked really good. So to me, he's definitely a good handcuff to keep on board.
I love him. So
Well, it's that fun time again because we always are having this each week, it seems, because you guys had week 1 for quarterbacks, we
We
had
did.
week 2 for wide receivers. So, fun question yet again. And I think we should start with you because we already kind of know
Well, I'm
your
gonna-
answer by. Well, let me get the question out.
I gotcha. Well, we kind of already asked it.
What rookie running back?
Your running back is the one you like the most.
Which rookie running back would you? And we're all going to go different. Otherwise, I think we'd all pick this one. Which rookie running back do you say you have must draft?
So, like I said, I was gonna say it's not necessarily a must draft. It's who do you think might be the most standout of that? Clearly, mine is Saquon Barkley. Obviously, he's the one you want on your team. With that being said, also look at James Conner, only because
Let this be known, Danny was wrong.
that's it. You want to play this game? Starting next week, I'm going to call them out every single time they are wrong on something. You've been warned. You have been warned now. It's on now. So anyway, Saquon Barkley.
Alright, my rookie running back is Nick Chubb.
He's not even going to be the starter, and there's no way that Carlos. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to cut you up. Go ahead, start. I'm just messing
It
with
doesn't matter. Carlos Hyde
No.
is always one of those consistently underrated running backs. We know what he brings to the table. We know what he can do. Me, I'm looking at more as like a keeper, dynasty running
Oh, yeah.
back. They didn't take the guy in the first round just to have him sit, in my opinion. So I think he's definitely going to get some carries this year.
I win. He got taken in the second round. Boom! Shut it down. First pick of the second round.
For the second round. Close enough. Let's just take Nick Chubb.
You know what? I'll make mine short and sweet as well, but not because I'm going to mess up. Now I'm going to mess up.
You're gonna mess up.
I'm going to say Royce Freeman for the Denver Broncos. And the reason I say Royce Freeman is because do you really trust Devontae Barker? Oh my gosh, I did. Devontae Booker. Devontae Booker. Man, we butchered it.
This video went downhill so fast.
Devontae Booker. I'm too cocky.
Cut. Just cut.
Oh, I don't even know when we're even gonna cut into this question anymore. If this question's even gonna make the video at this point.
How about, are we just gonna...
Okay, so final question, everyone. So the
You might
question
wanna,
is.
like, compose yourself.
Okay, sorry, breathe. Okay, so we're at the final question here, and as you know, our final question each time has been nothing to do with the rest of the subject. So the question this time is, if you had the choice of where and what your team name was going to be, where would you put it, and what would the team be called? You first.
I'm going to go with the Antarctica Freezers. Because I can.
Good name.
I'd just go with the tongue twister because that's fun, and not to mention having a team in Hawaii would be great. I'd just go with the Honolulu Hula Hoopers.
Okay, and so.
I thought we were supposed to close out the video.
Well, he is, but I asked the last question, so I have to answer it last. So, and then I want to go with it just because I like putting my name in everything. I'm going to Danville, Virginia Road Construction Crew.
Brandon, take it away.
Oh,
Close it out.
all right. Well, that was our running backs video there. Don't forget to subscribe and I'm backwards. It's somewhere in this area. Like it's either over here or it's over here. I don't know. But just subscribe, hit the button. If you want to talk about how bad we were in the video again, comment.
If we pronounced the name wrong, like the numerous times I did, make sure to comment so I
Ajay.
get called out.
And not to mention, next week we're gonna be doing mixed bag. Basically, we'll be hitting your tight ends, your defenses, and your kickers.
Punters! Who's your favorite punter?
Andy Lee.
And punters.
Hey!
We're gonna hit punters as well for you guys that are drafting punters.
We're not gonna do punters.
We're not gonna. All right, but we're signing out. We are the Fantasy Forecasters, and we predicted just as good as the Weathermen.